Adam Taxin with Daniel Greenfield talking about his Monday, July 16th, 2012 article called The Peace Business, dealing with Israel and the so-called peace process. Daniel, welcome. For the audience, Daniel's columns can be found at sultanknish.blogspot.com. Daniel, I want to get to something you say at the end. I'm taking for granted that the audience has some idea what we're talking about or may have even read the column by now. You talk about Bernie Madoff and the rubber chicken circuit and the utter ineptness of so-called Jewish leadership. Can you get right to the point and tell us how that fits in with everything here?
Well, Bernie Madoff was a giant scam, and the peace process that many of these same leaders are trying to push Israel into is another giant scam. But it's a giant scam that they believe because they like living in a world where they can make anything happen, whether it's impossible returns on their investments or the idea that the Muslims are going to make peace if Israel makes enough concessions. So the entire peace process scam is a good deal bigger than the Madoff scam, and a lot of the same people, these same leaders, actually got into the Madoff scam, and they dragged other institutions whose boards they sat on into the scam, and they're really doing that now via all these organizations that are supposed to drag Israel and the American Jews into supporting the two-state solution.
You mention hedge fund operators in particular, and maybe you can mention them by name, but what is it that happens? They get such big egos because they're good at one particular aspect and they think they have the right to dictate to Israel what to do, when a lot of them aren't even observant Jews.
Yeah, one of them, they've actually got a guy on there on the IPF board who isn't Jewish at all, but I guess he's in hedge funds, so might as well come on board is the basic idea. But when you have a certain amount of money and power, then you get the idea that everything can go your way and that you can just do anything you want.
So give me some of the specific leaders who are the worst. I mean, J Street, where do they fit in, first of all? That's a Soros thing.
This column is actually about the Israel Policy Forum, which was basically J Street before there was even a J Street.
Right.
But J Street is its own thing. There's some overlap funding-wise, but they have different funders.
You write about the contrast between some of the shepherds and farmers in Judea and Samaria, which I guess big media would like us to refer to as the West Bank, and you contrast that to Tel Aviv and the people who want to think of Israel as a Singapore with lots of gay bars next to mosques. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, what I describe as a range war is basically a showdown between the people who see Israel as a kind of Jewish Singapore where there's a lot of intellectual capital and cultural capital crammed into Tel Aviv, but it doesn't need all that stuff, all those farms and all those people who are just upsetting the Muslims, and they think they can create this kind of Singapore, the way Singapore is just tied around Malaysia, and that'll work. And of course it won't work. And really Tel Aviv, all these places that they like so much began as settlements in their own time. But there's a kind of a range war because what they want is this kind of country. They want to get rid of all that terrain. They want to trade it in, sell it off to protect their investments in Israel.
And of course, they probably don't like those pesky, annoying Judaism practicing Jews in black hats, and there's an increasingly large number of those. I guess we need to point that out too.
Well, of course, those people are just completely incomprehensible to them. They don't see why they're necessary at all. I mean, they're not bringing in any business at all.
Let me ask one last thing that occurred to me. Is it possible that, like a lot of organizations, particularly your local Jewish Federation in a lot of cases, the people on board here are part of the scam? They just want to collect salaries. They're not that interested in peace. I mean, when I see some of the dummies who get jobs for the Jewish organizations here in the Philadelphia area, I mean, I'm just like, it's just a salary. They're not going to accomplish anything. These are lightweights. Is that true in some of these Jewish organizations too? I mean, these peace organizations.
Oh, absolutely. Sizable chunks of this is a scam. I mean, if you look back at the career of Peter Beinart, that's what the guy came out of. The whole thing is a giant scam where they drag out money to commit a purpose, but they really do actual damage. Obviously, they can't create peace, but they can damage Israel, and they can continue doing harm in their own way.
How successful have they been?
Well, they can't be successful because they can't really accomplish anything. Their goal is completely ridiculous. But they can do damage, and they're successful in doing damage, certainly. How much damage is another issue.
But I guess, a lot of the goal is to feed the egos of these people, and they probably sleep with some of the 24-year-old women who come out of graduate studies in Jewish studies or whatever. So they're probably successful in that regard. Who knows?
Well, they're successful in contributing to the demonization of Israel. They're successful in pushing the idea that we still need a two-state solution, even when most rational and even halfway sane people would have realized that it's unworkable. And they're successful, obviously, in brainwashing some of these people, including the 24-year-olds, into thinking that what they're doing is an important social service instead of a babysitting service for rich people's money.
Well, there are these types of people in the Torah, and I'm sure we'll see them in the future, but we've always had these types.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're always with us. Yeah. We just finished reading a parsha about them.
Oh, which one are you talking about?
Well, actually, there's a selection of them. We can go Pinchas, Balak, Korach.
Yeah.
We have a lot to choose from.
Numbers has a lot of them. I was thinking of Korach when you first said that, which was a few weeks ago by now. But
there was actually a famous quote with Rabbi Stephen Wise, who was supposed to be a genius but was actually completely ignorant. When during the Holocaust, he was arguing with people, and he accused them, "Mi samcha aleinu," but that he was thinking the quote meant something else, but it was actually the accusation that Korach rebelled at Moshe Rabbeinu. So
gotcha.
He wasn't the genius that he thought he was.
No, and he did a lot to make sure Jews were killed in the Holocaust, from what I understand.
Yes, he did.
All right. Well, the column is the peace business. This is certainly no substitute for actually reading or, if need be, listening to the column. Daniel, as always, thank you for your time.